Discover the journey of Sarah, who was kicked out of her home at 15 for being pregnant, facing rejection and challenges as a young mother. Finding refuge with her Aunt Lisa, she discovers support and uses art as a way to express her pain and hopes. Years later, Sarah becomes a renowned artist, using her work to inspire other young mothers and create a community support space, demonstrating that it is possible to turn adversity into resilience and purpose. Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, her heart racing as she stared at the crumpled piece of paper in her hand. It was a note she had written to her parents, a confession of sorts, revealing the truth she had been hiding for months. The walls of her small room felt as if they were closing in on her, each tick of the clock amplifying the weight of her anxiety. She could hear her mother in the kitchen, the clinking of dishes punctuating the silence that enveloped her. "Sarah, honey, are you coming down for dinner?" her mother called, her voice cheerful and oblivious to the turmoil brewing within her daughter. "Yeah, I'll be right there," Sarah managed to reply, her voice trembling slightly. She took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage to face her parents. It was now or never. As she walked down the narrow hallway, each step felt like a step towards a precipice. She could envision their faces, the shock, the disappointment, the anger. It was a weight she had carried alone for far too long. Entering the kitchen, the warm aroma of spaghetti wafted through the air, but it did little to ease her nerves. Her father sat at the table, engrossed in the newspaper, while her mother was busy plating the food. "Dinner's almost ready." "Just a few more minutes," her mother said, glancing over her shoulder with a bright smile. Sarah forced a smile in return, her stomach churning. I need to talk to you guys about something important," Sarah announced, her voice barely above a whisper. Her father looked up from his newspaper, his brow furrowing with concern. "What is it, Sarah? You look pale." "Yeah, honey, what's wrong?" her mother asked, turning to face her, the smile fading from her lips. Taking a deep breath, Sarah clenched the note tightly in her fist. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. Her parents exchanged glances, their faces shifting from confusion to disbelief. Her mother's eyes widened, and her father's jaw tightened. "Pregnant?" her father echoed, the anger simmering just below the surface. "What do you mean you're pregnant? How could you let this happen?" "Dad, please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" he interrupted, his voice rising. "Do you even realize the mess you've gotten yourself into? You're only 15. "Don't yell at her," her mother interjected, her voice shaky. "Sarah, how could you do this? What were you thinking?" "I didn't mean for this to happen. I just found out, okay?" Sarah's voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes. "I need you to understand." Her father slammed his hand on the table, causing the dishes to rattle. "Understand what? That you've ruined your life. That you've brought shame to this family." "Shame?" Sarah shot back, her emotions spiraling. "What about my feelings? What about what I'm going through? I'm scared." "Scared?" her father scoffed. "You think you're scared? What do you think we're feeling? You're a child, Sarah. You can't even take care of yourself, let alone a baby. Maybe you should have thought about that before you were reckless," her mother added, her voice dripping with disappointment. In that moment, Sarah felt a rush of heat coursing through her. The rejection stung deeper than she could have imagined. "I can't believe you're reacting like this," she said, her voice trembling with hurt. "I thought you would support me. I thought you'd help me." Her father stood up, his face flushed with anger. "You think we're going to support this? You need to get your life together, Sarah. This is unacceptable." "Get out," her mother said, her voice cold as ice. "We can't have this kind of shame in our house. You need to leave." "Mom, please, don't leave," her father shouted, his voice booming through the small kitchen. "You don't deserve to stay here after what you've done." With tears streaming down her face, Sarah grabbed her backpack and hurried towards the front door. She felt a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak as she crossed the threshold, the weight of their words crashing down on her. Outside, the cool evening air bit at her skin, but it offered a brief respite from the chaos of her emotions. She stumbled down the porch steps and into the street, the enormity of her situation crashing over her. She had nowhere to go. After wandering aimlessly, Sarah found herself sitting on the curb in front of a nearby park, the moonlight casting a silver glow on the ground. Her heart ached, and the reality of her expulsion settled in like a heavy blanket. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her aunt, Lisa, asking if she was all right. With shaky hands, Sarah typed back, "I need help." Minutes felt like hours as she waited for a response, the chill of the night creeping into her bones. When her phone buzzed again, she breathed a sigh of relief. "Come to my place. I'll be waiting." With a newfound sense of determination, Sarah wiped her tears and made her way to her aunt's house. When she arrived, Lisa was standing at the door, concern etched on her face. "Oh, Sarah," she said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I was so worried about you. Come inside." As they settled into the cozy living room, Sarah felt a flicker of warmth for the first time since the confrontation. Lisa poured her a cup of tea and sat facing her, her eyes soft and understanding. "Do you want to talk about it?" Lisa asked gently, her voice soothing. "I told my parents," Sarah said, her voice breaking. They kicked me out." Lisa's expression shifted from concern to compassion. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. That must have been incredibly hard for you. I thought they would understand. I thought they'd help me," Sarah confessed, her words tumbling out in a rush. "But all they did was yell. I felt so alone." "You're not alone, Sarah. You have me," Lisa reassured her, placing a hand on her knee. "You're safe here. We'll figure this out together." As the conversation continued, Sarah found solace in her aunt's support. They talked about her situation, about the baby, and about what the future might hold. Lisa encouraged Sarah to express her feelings, to not bottle them up inside. With her aunt's encouragement, Sarah began to paint again, something she had done since childhood. Amidst the chaos of her emotions, she discovered that art became her refuge. One evening, while the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Sarah picked up a brush and let her feelings flow onto the canvas. It was a cathartic release, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a semblance of peace. Each stroke of the brush represented her pain, her fears, and her hopes. The colors danced together, swirling in a chaotic yet beautiful harmony, mirroring the turmoil within her heart. As days turned into weeks, Sarah found herself forming a bond with another young mother in her aunt's neighborhood, Emily. They began to meet at the local park, sharing stories of their struggles and dreams. Emily, who was also navigating the challenges of young motherhood, encouraged Sarah to embrace her art as a form of healing. "You've got a gift, Sarah," Emily said one afternoon as they sat on a park bench, watching their babies play on the grass. "You should use it to tell your story. It's powerful." Every word Emily spoke resonated within Sarah, igniting a fire of determination. She began to use her art as a means of therapy, channeling her pain into vibrant paintings that spoke of motherhood, resilience, and the beauty of life's challenges. With each brushstroke, Sarah began to heal, and the pain of her past slowly transformed into something beautiful. She realized that, while she had faced rejection from her family, she had found a new kind of family in her aunt and in the friendships she was building. Sarah's journey was just beginning, and with each canvas she created, she felt a little more whole. Years had passed since Sarah had fled from her childhood home, carrying not only the weight of her pregnancy but also the heavy burden of abandonment. Now, at the age of 30, she stood in front of a large canvas in her studio, paintbrush in hand, reflecting on her journey. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the room filled with vibrant colors and unfinished pieces of art. Each stroke she made was a testament to her past, her struggles, and her triumphs. In this moment, Sarah was a successful artist, revered for her poignant works that explored the complexities of motherhood and the female experience. Her latest exhibition, Reflections of Resilience, was fast approaching, and the anticipation both thrilled and terrified her. She had poured her heart into this collection, channeling the pain of her teenage years into something beautiful, something that could inspire and connect. As she stepped back to examine her progress, her daughter Lily, now 8 years old, bounded into the studio with the uncontainable energy only a child could possess. "Mom! Look what I made," she exclaimed, holding up a crayon drawing of a bright sun with a smiley face, surrounded by stick figures that Sarah recognized as their family. "That's amazing, sweetheart. The sun is so bright," Sarah replied, kneeling down to admire the art. "And I see you drew us. Who's this?" She pointed to a small figure with a wild tuft of hair. "That's you, Mommy. You've got the best hair." Lily giggled, her laughter a sweet melody that filled the air. Sarah chuckled, ruffling her daughter's hair. "I do have a pretty unique hairstyle, don't I? Can I help with your painting?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with eagerness. Sarah hesitated for a moment, the thought of letting Lily into her creative space both exciting and daunting. "How about we create something together after I finish this piece? I want you to help me with the colors." "Okay. But can I pick the colors?" Lily insisted, bouncing on her toes. "Of course. You always have the best ideas," Sarah said, smiling. "Just give me a little time to finish this one, and then it's all yours." As Sarah returned to her canvas, her mind wandered back to her past, the memories of isolation, rejection, and ultimately, the strength she found within herself. She had transformed her pain into art, and now, her work was celebrated. But the shadows of her youth still lingered, whispering doubts into her mind. Would she ever truly escape the stigma of being a teenage mother? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of her phone buzzing on the table. It was a reminder for the upcoming exhibition. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had turned her pain into purpose, and now she had the chance to help others who had faced similar struggles. Later that evening, Sarah prepared dinner while Lily chatted animatedly about her day at school. "We learned about space. Did you know there are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all the beaches?" Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Wow, that's incredible, Lily. You'll have to teach me everything you learned," Sarah encouraged, stirring the pasta on the stove. As they sat down to eat, Sarah's mind drifted back to her own teenage years, filled with uncertainty and fear. Would her daughter face similar challenges? "Lily, if you ever need to talk about anything, you know you can always come to me, right?" Sarah asked, her voice serious. "Of course, Mommy. You're the best," Lily exclaimed, her mouth full of spaghetti. "But I don't have any problems. I'm just a kid." "Just remember, even kids have feelings, and it's okay to share them," Sarah reminded her gently, feeling the weight of her own past pressing on her heart. After dinner, Sarah returned to her studio, determined to make progress on her latest piece. The canvas was nearly complete. It depicted a mother holding her child, surrounded by swirling colors that symbolized the chaos and beauty of motherhood. But something was missing. She stood in front of it for a long time, contemplating. Suddenly, she felt a surge of inspiration. I need to capture the light, she murmured to herself, reaching for the brighter colors. With each stroke, she poured her emotions into the work, remembering the fear of abandonment, the struggle to find acceptance, and the overwhelming love she felt for Lily. As the night wore on, Sarah lost track of time. The world outside faded away, and all that existed was her and the canvas. It was only when she heard Lily's soft voice calling from the hallway that she realized how late it had become. "Mommy, can I come in?" Lily asked, peeking through the door. "Of course, honey. Come in," Sarah replied, wiping her hands on a rag and turning to face her daughter. Lily entered, her eyes wide as she took in the colorful chaos of the studio. "Wow! It looks amazing in here. What are you painting?" Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "This is about the love between a mother and her child. What do you think?" "It's beautiful. Can I add something?" Lily asked, her creativity shining through. "Absolutely. Let's add some stars, like the ones you talked about earlier," Sarah suggested, excited to include her daughter in the process. Together, they picked up brushes and began to add small, bright stars around the mother and child in the painting. Sarah felt a sense of joy wash over her as she watched Lily express herself freely, her laughter echoing in the studio. "You're really good at this, Lily. I think you might be an artist too," Sarah said, beaming. "I want to be just like you, Mommy," Lily exclaimed, her face alight with enthusiasm. As they painted, Sarah reflected on how far she had come. She had turned her pain into a platform for change, using her art to connect with others and advocate for young mothers like herself. Her heart swelled with hope as she envisioned the support group she planned to start, an opportunity to create a safe space for young women to share their stories and find strength in one another. The next day, Sarah spent hours organizing her thoughts, planning the first meeting of the support group. She wanted to create an environment where young mothers could express themselves without fear of judgment. She typed up flyers, pouring her heart into the words, hoping to reach those who felt alone, just as she once had. "Join us for a safe space to talk, share, and support one another. Your story matters," she wrote, her fingers flying over the keyboard. With a sense of purpose igniting within her, Sarah felt ready to confront her past and help others find their voices. She was determined to create a ripple effect of empowerment and acceptance, not just in her life but in the lives of young mothers in her community. As she finalized the details, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Despite the pain of her past, she had carved out a beautiful life for herself and her daughter. And in doing so, she had found her own voice, one that resonated with love, resilience, and hope. "Mommy, can we paint more tomorrow?" Lily's voice broke through Sarah's thoughts, pulling her back to the present. "Absolutely, my love. We'll create a whole gallery together," Sarah promised, wrapping her arms around her daughter as they shared a moment of warmth and understanding. In that embrace, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that she was not only healing herself but also instilling strength and confidence in the next generation. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with love, creativity, and the power of their shared experiences. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over Maplewood, Sarah stepped out of the car, her heart racing. The familiar sights of her childhood town flooded back to her. Each tree, each house, held memories both cherished and painful. She looked over at her daughter, Lily, who was gazing curiously out the window, oblivious to the weight of the moment. "Mom, is that where you grew up?" Lily asked, excitement dancing in her eyes. "Yeah, it is," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. "That's Maplewood." Lily unbuckled her seatbelt and opened the door, stepping out onto the gravel driveway. The crunch of stones underfoot was oddly comforting, as if the earth itself welcomed her back. Sarah took a deep breath, letting the scent of pine and freshly cut grass fill her lungs. This was home. Or it had been, at least. As they walked down the block, Sarah felt the eyes of the neighbors upon them. A woman watering her garden paused to stare, her expression a mix of surprise and disbelief. Sarah's heart sank. She had expected this scrutiny, but it didn't make it any easier. The whispers that followed her through the years, the judgments and assumptions, they were all still there, lurking. "Mom, why are they looking at us like that?" Lily asked, concern creasing her brow. "They're just surprised to see us back," Sarah said, trying to sound nonchalant. "We'll get used to it." They continued walking until they reached the small house that had once been her sanctuary. The paint was peeling, the lawn overgrown, yet it felt strangely familiar. Memories flashed before her eyes, the laughter of childhood, the warmth of family dinners, and, more hauntingly, the day she had been thrown out. "Can we go inside?" Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve, her eyes wide with curiosity. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing. "Not just yet, sweetheart. Let's explore the neighborhood first." As they wandered, memories surged. They passed the corner store where she used to buy candy with her allowance, the park where she and Jenna had spent countless summer afternoons, and the school that had once been her second home. With every step, the past clawed at her, but she pushed it aside, determined to focus on the present. "Look, Mom! A playground!" Lily exclaimed, racing ahead. Sarah watched her daughter play, her heart swelling with pride. Lily was vibrant and full of life, everything Sarah had hoped for. She couldn't let her past dictate their future. Later that evening, as they settled into their temporary home, Sarah's aunt's house, Sarah felt the weight of her decision to return. Emotions churned within her, a cocktail of anticipation and anxiety. She had come back not just to face her demons, but to help others like her. "Mom, can we paint tomorrow?" Lily asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Of course, we can't," Sarah replied, ruffling her daughter's hair. "We'll make it a fun day." That night, as she lay in bed, Sarah's mind raced. She couldn't shake the memories of her childhood. The way her parents had reacted when she had told them about her pregnancy. The shame. The anger. The loneliness. She had spent years building a life for herself, but the ghosts of her past were stubborn. The next day dawned bright and clear. Sarah decided it was time to confront her past head-on. She dressed in a simple blouse and jeans, a stark contrast to the vibrant colors she usually wore. Today was different, she needed to be grounded. After breakfast, she turned to Lily. "How about we go to the community center? I want to see if there are any programs for young mothers." "Can I come?" Lily asked, her enthusiasm palpable. "Of course. You can help me," Sarah said, smiling. They hopped into the car, and as they drove through town, Sarah's heart raced. She was ready to face Jenna. The community center was buzzing with activity. As they entered, Sarah felt a mix of nostalgia and apprehension. The walls were adorned with artwork from local artists, colorful and bold. But it was the faces of the women gathered in the corner that caught her attention, young mothers, some with babies in their arms, others cradling toddlers. A small spark of hope ignited in her chest. "Mom, look!" Lily exclaimed, pointing to a mural on the wall. "It's so pretty." "Yes, it is," Sarah replied, her gaze still on the group of women. She took a deep breath and walked over, Lily trailing behind her. "Hi, everyone," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "I'm Sarah, and I'd like to start a support group for young mothers. I want to create a space where we can share our stories and help each other." The women turned to her, a mix of curiosity and skepticism in their eyes. One woman, with tired eyes and a baby on her hip, stepped forward. What do you know about it? You look like you've got it all together. I wish I could say that's true, Sarah replied, her heart pounding. I was a young mother once, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I want to help. Why should we trust you? Another woman asked, crossing her arms. Because I've been where you are, Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. I felt the isolation, the fear. I want to help us all find a way to lift each other up. After a moment of silence, the first woman nodded. Okay. Let's hear what you have in mind. As they engaged in conversation, Sarah felt a sense of purpose washing over her. She was determined to create a safe space for these mothers, a place where they could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. Lily played nearby, drawing with chalk, her laughter ringing out like music. Just then, a familiar voice broke through the noise. Sarah. Sarah turned to see Jenna standing there, her expression unreadable. Time had changed her. She looked older, more polished, but the tension between them was palpable. Jenna, Sarah replied, forcing a smile. It's been a while. Yeah, it has, Jenna said, her voice flat. I didn't expect to see you back here. I didn't expect to come back, Sarah admitted. But I wanted to help young mothers. I know how hard it is. Jenna's eyes narrowed slightly. You think you can just waltz back in and be a hero? Jenna, that's not what because you weren't here when it mattered, Jenna interrupted, her voice rising. You left us all behind. I had no choice. Sarah shot back, the old hurt bubbling to the surface. I was kicked out. You have no idea what it was like for me. Then maybe you shouldn't be here, Jenna said coldly, turning away. Wait, Sarah called out, desperation creeping into her voice. I want to make amends. I want us to work together. Jenna paused, her back still turned. You think it's that easy? Just because you want to help doesn't mean you can erase the past. I know that, Sarah said, her heart aching. But I'm trying to do something good. For us, for those girls. We can make a difference together. Jenna turned to face her, eyes blazing. I don't know if I can trust you. I understand, Sarah replied, her voice softer. Just give me a chance. If I can help even one girl not feel as alone as I did, it'll be worth it. Jenna studied her for a long moment, the tension thick in the air. Finally, she sighed. Fine. But I'm watching you. Thank you, Sarah breathed, relief flooding through her. Perhaps this was the first step toward healing, both for her and for Jenna. As they began to lay the groundwork for the support group, Sarah felt a sense of hope blooming within her. She was back in Maplewood, ready to confront her past and help others in the process. She turned to Lily, who was now busy drawing a colorful sun on the pavement. Mom, can we paint together later? Lily asked, looking up with innocent eyes. Absolutely, sweetheart, Sarah replied, heart swelling with love. Let's make it a day to remember. Sarah stood in front of the old community center, a building that had witnessed years of stories, laughter, and pain. The sun was dipping low, casting a warm golden hue over Maplewood, but the warmth did little to quell the storm of emotions swirling inside her. Today marked the first official meeting of her support group for teen mothers, a dream she had nurtured since her return. It was a chance for her to give back, to transform her painful experiences into something that could help others. As she entered the center, she was greeted by the familiar scent of linoleum and dust. The wooden chairs were set up in a circle, and Sarah had brought a few snacks to create a welcoming atmosphere. She arranged the cookies and juice boxes on a small table, hoping that the simple offerings would ease the tension she anticipated. Hey, Sarah, a voice called from behind her. Startled, she turned to find Mia, a vibrant young woman she had met a few weeks ago while scouting for members. Mia had a bright smile and an energy that seemed to light up the room. Is it weird that I'm kind of nervous? Not at all, Sarah replied, her own nerves bubbling beneath the surface. I think we all are a little. This is a big step for all of us. Mia nodded, biting her lip. Do you think anyone will actually show up? I hope so, Sarah said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. I know there are girls in the area who could use this. We just need to create a space where they feel safe to share. As if on cue, the first girl arrived. It was Clara, a shy 16-year-old whom Sarah had met at the local clinic. She shuffled in, her eyes downcast. Hi, she mumbled, glancing around the room. Hi, Clara. I'm so glad you came, Sarah said, her heart warming at the sight of the young mother. We're just getting started. Feel free to grab some snacks. Clara nodded but remained quiet as she picked at a cookie. Sarah felt a pang of empathy. She remembered her own hesitations in those early days of motherhood. She wanted to reach out, to connect, but the words felt stuck in her throat. Slowly, more young mothers began to trickle in. They ranged in age and experience, each carrying the weight of their struggles. Sarah welcomed each one, her heart swelling with gratitude as they filled the chairs around the circle. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken fears and hopes. As the meeting began, Sarah took a deep breath. Thank you all for being here. I know it can be hard to share our stories, but I believe we can create something beautiful together. She paused, looking around at their eager, if anxious, faces. I want us to feel safe, to support one another, and to know that we are not alone. Mia spoke up, her voice steady. I think it's important that we can talk about the stuff that nobody else understands. Like what it's like to be a teen mom, or how people judge us. Exactly, Sarah agreed, her heart racing. We've all faced judgments, and this is a space where we can express our truths without fear of criticism. Clara, still quiet, finally spoke. I didn't want to keep my baby. I thought I'd ruin my life. My mom was so disappointed in me. Her voice wavered, and tears began to well in her eyes. Clara, thank you for sharing that, Sarah said, her own heart aching. It's so brave of you to open up. I felt the same way when I was young. I thought I'd lost everything. Mia chimed in, but look at you now. You're an artist. That's amazing. The conversation flowed more easily after that, each girl sharing snippets of their lives, their fears, and their triumphs. Sarah felt a sense of purpose wash over her as she listened to their stories. She recalled her own journey, the dark days of rejection, and the light that art had brought into her life. As the afternoon unfolded, Sarah facilitated the discussion, encouraging the girls to share their dreams and aspirations. What do you want for your future? She asked, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. I want to go to college, Mia said, her voice filled with determination. I want to show my daughter that she can do anything. I want to be a nurse, Clara added, her confidence growing. I want to help other moms like us. Sarah felt a swell of pride. They were beginning to envision brighter futures, despite their current circumstances. You can both achieve those dreams, she reassured them. You've already shown so much strength just by being here today. As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of connection. They had created a space for vulnerability, and she knew this was just the beginning. I want us to meet regularly, she proposed. Let's keep supporting each other. The girls nodded, their smiles genuine. Just then, Jenna walked in, a slight frown on her face as she surveyed the group. I didn't know what to expect, she admitted, her tone cautious. Sarah's heart sank for a moment. Jenna had been a pivotal figure in her past, both a friend and a source of conflict. But today, she was here to help, and Sarah wanted to bridge their gap. We're just wrapping up our first meeting, Sarah said, gesturing to the girls. It's been really inspiring. Jenna raised an eyebrow, glancing at the girls. I hope you're not just commiserating. What's the goal here? We're sharing our experiences and supporting one another, Sarah replied firmly. It's about building a community where we can feel safe and empowered. Jenna crossed her arms, her skepticism evident. And what if it turns into a pity party? Then we'll learn to lift each other up, Sarah said, her voice steady. We're not here to dwell on the negative but to transform it. We want to create a support system that encourages growth and resilience. Jenna seemed to consider this, her expression softening just a fraction. I want to help. I really do. But I just don't want it to turn into something that brings everyone down. Sarah smiled, sensing a crack in Jenna's armor. Then let's work together. Your experience in the community can help us reach more girls. All right, Jenna said, a hint of determination in her voice. Let's see where this goes. As they wrapped up the meeting, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could find common ground after all. The girls began to gather their things, chatting animatedly about the next meeting, and Sarah couldn't help but smile. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice warm. I'm so proud of each of you for being here. Let's keep this momentum going. Clara smiled shyly. I didn't think I could talk about my feelings. It felt good. Mia nodded. Yeah, I think we can really help each other. As they left, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had taken the first step toward healing not just for herself, but for others like her. In that moment, she knew that while the past could be haunting, the future held promise. And with each shared story, they were not just confronting their fears, they were reclaiming their narratives, one meeting at a time. Sarah stood at the entrance of the gallery, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The smell of fresh paint and polished wood filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of coffee wafting from a corner cafe. It was the very same gallery where she had once exhibited her work, a place that had witnessed her evolution as an artist and a mother. But now, as she prepared for her upcoming show, the weight of her past loomed heavily over her like a dark cloud, threatening to rain down doubt and insecurity. Are you ready, Mom? Lily's voice broke through Sarah's reverie. The young girl, with her bright eyes and wild curls, looked up at her with a mixture of curiosity and excitement. Sarah smiled softly, feeling a rush of warmth for her daughter. She was determined to create a future for Lily that was free from the shadows of her own past. Almost, sweetheart, Sarah replied, forcing a bright smile. Just taking it all in. She glanced around the gallery, absorbing the vibrant colors and the creative energy that seemed to pulse through the walls. It was a stark contrast to the memories that haunted her, the cold rejection from her parents, the loneliness of being a teenage mother, and the struggle to find her voice in a world that often silenced women like her. Look! That painting is beautiful. Lily pointed towards a piece hanging on the wall, a swirling canvas of blues and greens that seemed to dance with life. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. Her daughter had an eye for beauty, a sensitivity that reminded her of her younger self. Yes, it is, Sarah agreed, her thoughts lingering on the artwork that awaited her. She had poured her heart into her latest piece, a reflection of her journey through motherhood, pain, and ultimately, acceptance. Yet, the closer the exhibition drew, the more the anxiety crept in. Mom, can we go see your painting now? Lily tugged at her sleeve, her enthusiasm infectious. Of course, let's go, Sarah said, taking a deep breath to steady herself as they walked towards the back of the gallery. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, a confrontation with the ghosts of her past. She had returned to Maplewood to reclaim her story, but the fear of judgment still lingered. As they approached the corner where her work was displayed, Sarah's stomach churned. There it was, her newest piece, a large canvas that depicted a mother cradling her child, surrounded by swirling colors symbolizing chaos and love. It was raw and emotional, a true representation of her experience. But would the community see it that way? Wow, Mom! It's so big! Lily exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. Thank you, honey, Sarah replied, touched by her daughter's admiration. It means a lot to me. Just then, the gallery door swung open, and Jenna walked in, her presence commanding immediate attention. Sarah's heart raced. Jenna had been a pivotal part of her past, an old friend turned rival, and their reunion had been anything but smooth. Sarah, Jenna said, her tone a mix of surprise and uncertainty. I didn't expect to see you here. Jenna, Sarah acknowledged, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. I'm just getting ready for the exhibition. Jenna's gaze flickered to the painting, her expression unreadable. It's impressive. You've really come a long way. Thanks, Sarah replied, unsure how to interpret Jenna's compliment. She wanted to believe it was genuine, but there was an edge to it that made her wary. You know, the community hasn't changed much since you left, Jenna continued, folding her arms as she leaned against the wall. There are still a lot of people who remember what happened. They might not be as accepting as you hope. Sarah felt a pang of anxiety twist inside her. I know. But I believe in the power of art to change perspectives. That's why I'm here, to share my story. Is that really what you want? Jenna asked, her brow furrowing. To relive everything. Jenna, this isn't just about me, Sarah said, her voice firm. It's about helping others, about showing young mothers that they're not alone. I want to create a space for them to feel safe and supported. Jenna's expression softened slightly, but her skepticism remained. I just worry that the community won't see it that way. They might only see you as the girl who got pregnant too young. Maybe, Sarah conceded, her heart heavy. But if I don't try, how will anything change? I have to believe that there's more to my story than just that. Lily, sensing the tension, chimed in, Mom's the best artist. People will love her paintings. Jenna glanced at Lily and then back at Sarah, her expression shifting. She's right, you know. You've worked hard. Just be prepared for the reactions. I will, Sarah replied, determination flooding her veins. I'm ready to face whatever comes. As Jenna walked away to mingle with other guests, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. She turned to Lily, who was busy admiring another piece of artwork. Hey, sweetheart, Sarah said softly, kneeling down to meet her daughter's gaze. What do you think people will feel when they see my painting? I think they'll see how much you love me and how strong you are. Lily answered, her eyes shining with innocence and belief. Sarah smiled, the weight on her shoulders lightening just a bit. That's exactly what I hoped for. As the evening approached, Sarah found herself drawn back to her canvas, her fingers brushing against the textured surface. The colors seemed to pulse under her touch, each stroke a testament to her resilience. Just a little more work, she murmured to herself, feeling a surge of inspiration. She knew this piece would be a culmination of everything she had faced, her pain, her love for Lily, and the hope she held for the future. The following day, she sat in front of her easel, surrounded by splashes of paint and brushes, lost in her world. The room was filled with the soft sounds of her brush gliding across the canvas, but her mind was swirling with thoughts of the upcoming exhibition. I have to make this perfect, Sarah said aloud, as if the act of speaking would imbue her work with the confidence she desperately sought. Lily peeked over her shoulder, her small hands stained with paint. Mom, it's already perfect. You just need to believe it. Maybe you're right, Sarah replied, chuckling softly. She took a step back to admire her work, the vibrant colors reflecting not just her struggles, but also her triumphs. With each passing day, the exhibition loomed closer, and Sarah found herself oscillating between excitement and dread. She had poured her soul into this piece, and as the date approached, she felt a growing urgency to ensure that her message was clear. "Mom, can we go see my favorite painting again?" Lily asked one evening as they prepared for bed. "Of course, let's go," Sarah said, feeling a surge of warmth from Lily's innocent enthusiasm. Hand in hand, they walked back to the gallery, where her painting awaited. It was a moment of reflection, not just for Sarah, but for both mother and daughter. Here, in the heart of Maplewood, they were creating their own narrative, one brushstroke at a time. As Sarah stood before the canvas, she whispered, "This is for us, Lily. For every girl who feels alone, for every mother who needs to know she's not defined by her past." And in that moment, as they gazed at the painting together, Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She was ready to face whatever came next, ready to embrace the uncertainties of the exhibition, armed with the love of her daughter and the strength of her journey. The night of the exhibition had finally arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Sarah stood in the dimly lit gallery, her heart racing as she scanned the room. She could see familiar faces among the crowd, old classmates, neighbors, and even a few former teachers. Each one of them carried a memory of her past, a past she had tried so hard to escape. The walls of the gallery were adorned with her artwork, pieces that echoed her journey through pain, motherhood, and resilience. As she stood there, nervously fiddling with the hem of her dress, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and dread. This was her moment, the culmination of years spent pouring her soul into her art, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability that accompanied it. She had painted her truth, but now she would have to face the judgment of those who once turned their backs on her. "Mom, are you okay?" Lily's small voice broke through her thoughts. The young girl, who had been so excited about the event, now looked up at her with wide, worried eyes. "I'm fine, sweetie," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. "Just a little nervous, that's all." "Is it because of them?" Lily asked, glancing toward a group of familiar faces gathered near the entrance. Sarah followed her gaze and noticed Jenna among them, laughing and chatting with others. "Maybe," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But this is about more than just them. It's about our story, our journey." Lily nodded, her expression serious. "You're going to do great, Mom. I believe in you." Sarah smiled at her daughter, a warmth spreading through her chest. With Lily by her side, she felt a surge of courage. As the clock ticked closer to the official start of the exhibition, Sarah took a deep breath, straightened her posture, and stepped forward to greet the guests. The gallery buzzed with conversation, laughter punctuating the air. Sarah moved through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries and small talk, but her mind was focused on the pieces hanging on the walls. Each painting told a story, of heartbreak, of growth, of the fierce love she had for her daughter. As she approached one of her larger canvases, a striking piece that depicted a mother cradling a child amid a storm, she overheard snippets of conversation from nearby guests. "Did you hear about her? The girl who got pregnant at 15, one woman whispered, her tone laced with disdain. "Yeah, I heard. She's back in town, right? Seems a bit too proud of herself," another chimed in, their judgment clear in their voices. Sarah's heart sank. It was exactly what she feared. The whispers, the judgments, they were all still there, lurking just beneath the surface. She took a step back, feeling the weight of their words pressing down on her. "Don't listen to them, Mom," Lily said, her small hand tugging at Sarah's sleeve. "You're amazing." "Thank you, Lily," Sarah replied, trying to shake off the negativity. "You're right. I can't let them get to me." Just then, Jenna approached, her expression unreadable. "Sarah," she said, her voice steady but cool. "You did a remarkable job with the paintings. They really capture everything." "Thanks, Jenna," Sarah replied, forcing a polite smile. "I wanted to express the journey we've been on." Jenna nodded, but her eyes flickered with something unreadable. "I know it must be hard for you to be here tonight, facing the people who judged you." "It is hard," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't hide anymore. This is my story, and I want to share it." Jenna's expression softened for a brief moment, and Sarah wondered if perhaps there was still hope for their friendship. But just as quickly, the wall came back up. "Just be prepared. Some people might not react well." Before Sarah could respond, the gallery owner stepped onto a small platform, clinking a glass to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming tonight. We are honored to showcase the work of Sarah Thompson, an artist whose journey has been nothing short of inspiring." As applause erupted, Sarah felt her heart swell. This was it. This was her moment. She stepped forward, her breath hitching in her throat. The crowd quieted, eyes turning toward her expectantly. "Thank you," Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly. "When I first picked up a paintbrush after everything happened, I did so to heal. I wanted to give a voice to my pain, my struggles, and my joys as a mother. Each piece you see tonight tells a part of my story." The audience listened intently, their eyes fixed on her. For the first time, she felt seen. "Through my art, I hope to show that no matter how difficult our paths may seem, we all have the power to rise above our circumstances. I want to inspire young mothers to embrace their journeys, just as I have embraced mine." Sarah glanced around the room, noticing a few nods of understanding among the crowd. "I know that many of you may have judged me in the past, and that's okay. But I ask you to look beyond those judgments. Look at the art and see the story behind it. We all have our struggles, our stories of pain and resilience." As she spoke, she could see Jenna in the audience, her expression shifting from skepticism to something resembling empathy. "Tonight, I invite you to share your own stories," Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. "Let's break down the walls of judgment and build bridges of understanding instead." Just then, a voice from the back of the crowd interrupted. "But what about the choices you made? Can we really celebrate that?" Sarah turned to see a former classmate, someone who had never shied away from voicing her opinion. The crowd shifted, tension building in the air. "Those choices shaped me," Sarah replied, her heart pounding. "I don't deny them, but I also don't let them define me. We all have choices we regret, but it's how we move forward that matters." The audience murmured, some in agreement, others still unsure. "I didn't come here tonight to ask for your forgiveness or approval," Sarah added, her voice firm. "I came to share my truth and to remind all of you that love, acceptance, and resilience are what truly matter." In that moment, something shifted in the room. A ripple of understanding began to flow through the crowd. As Sarah spoke, she felt an unexpected surge of support. She could see familiar faces beginning to soften, their hard edges starting to blur. And then, as she finished her speech, Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had bared her soul, not just through her art but through her words. For the first time, she felt a sense of liberation, as if she had finally taken control of her narrative. With her heart racing, she stepped back and looked at the crowd, waiting for their reaction. She could feel the weight of their eyes on her, some full of judgment, others filled with understanding. "Thank you," Sarah finally said, her voice breaking. "Thank you for listening." As she stepped back, the crowd erupted into applause. It was tentative at first but quickly grew into something more powerful. Sarah's heart swelled as she took in the moment, knowing that she had shared not just her story, but also a piece of her heart. And in that moment, she realized that perhaps this night could be the start of something new, not just for her, but for everyone in the room. As vibrant colors of Sarah's paintings danced under the gallery lights, creating an atmosphere that was both electric and charged with emotion. The crowd buzzed with whispers, the air thick with anticipation as Sarah stepped down from the small podium where she had just shared her story. It felt surreal to stand there, pouring her heart out before a gathering of familiar and unfamiliar faces, her words weaving a tapestry of pain and resilience. As she looked around, she noticed Jenna across the room. Despite their earlier tension, there was a flicker of understanding in Jenna's eyes. Sarah felt the weight of the moment. She had bared her soul, and now it was time for a reckoning, for both of them. "Sarah," Jenna called out, her voice breaking through the murmurs of the crowd. "Can we talk?" Sarah nodded, her heart racing. The two women moved to a quieter corner of the gallery, the vibrant colors of Sarah's art reflecting the emotions swirling within her. The tension was palpable, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of hope. Jenna crossed her arms, her gaze fixed on the floor for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I've been thinking about everything you said up there," she started, her voice low. "About how we've both carried our burdens. I didn't realize how much you'd gone through." Sarah felt a swell of emotion at Jenna's words, but she remained guarded. "You knew I was pregnant. You chose to distance yourself when I needed friends the most," she replied, her voice steady but tinged with hurt. "I know," Jenna said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was scared, Sarah. I didn't understand. I was young and naive, and I thought that by stepping away, I wouldn't have to confront my own feelings about it. I didn't want to be judged by my family or the town. And yet, you judged me," Sarah countered, her heart racing. "You were one of the people I thought would understand. You knew how hard it was for me, but instead of reaching out, you chose to turn your back." Jenna nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was wrong. I see that now. I'm sorry. I was just a kid, too. I was afraid of what everyone would think of me if I got too close to someone like you. Someone like me." Sarah's voice rose slightly. "What does that even mean?" "Because I got pregnant. Because I was different from the rest of you." Jenna flinched at the accusation, but she didn't back down. "No, Sarah. It's not just that. It was about the choices we made. I chose to conform, to pretend everything was fine while you fought to survive, and I envied you for that. I still do. You turned your pain into something beautiful. I never knew how to do that." Sarah could see the sincerity in Jenna's eyes, the vulnerability that mirrored her own. "You think I had it easy?" she asked, softer now. "Every day was a struggle. I had to learn to fight for myself and for Lily. It took every ounce of strength I had." "I can't imagine," Jenna replied, her voice breaking. "I thought I was protecting myself, but it looks like I was just hurting both of us." "Maybe we both were," Sarah said, her heart beginning to soften. "But it's not too late to fix this. We can't change the past, but we can choose to move forward." A silence stretched between them as they both pondered the weight of their shared history. It was a moment of reckoning, a chance to confront the ghosts that lingered from their youth. "Do you remember that summer?" Jenna asked suddenly, a faint smile breaking through her earlier tension. "When we used to sneak out to paint in the old barn. I always thought you were so brave, painting those wild colors. I was too scared to show anyone my art." Sarah smiled at the memory, the warmth of nostalgia washing over her. "I remember. You were the one who encouraged me to let go of my fears. I was terrified, but you helped me find my voice." Jenna's expression turned serious again. "I want to help you now, Sarah. I want to support the group you started for young mothers. I think it's important, and I want to help change the narrative for these girls. They deserve a chance, just like you did. Sarah's heart swelled with hope. You really mean that? You want to be part of this? Absolutely, Jenna affirmed, her eyes shining with determination. Let's work together. We can create a space where they feel safe, where they can express themselves without judgment. We can help them find their strength. Sarah took a deep breath, a wave of relief washing over her. I'd like that. It's time we use our experiences to empower others. Together, we can make a difference. As they stood there, a sense of camaraderie began to build, bridging the gaps of their past. The gallery around them continued to buzz with conversations, but in that moment, they were cocooned in their shared resolve. I want to help you with your art too, Jenna said, her voice brightening. Maybe we can even collaborate on a project that showcases the stories of these young mothers. It could be a powerful statement. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. That sounds incredible. We can create a series of pieces that tell their stories, their struggles and triumphs. It could inspire so many people. Yes! Jenna exclaimed, her excitement infectious. Let's do it. Let's show the world that these girls are more than just their circumstances. They have dreams, talents, and the power to change their lives. In that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. It was a fragile, tentative feeling, but it was there, nestled between the remnants of her past and the promise of a brighter future. Thank you, Jenna, Sarah said earnestly, for being willing to step up and be part of this with me. It means a lot. Thank you for being brave enough to share your story, Jenna replied, her voice steady. You showed me that we can all find our way back, no matter how lost we feel. As they embraced, the tension that had once defined their relationship began to melt away, replaced by a burgeoning friendship built on mutual respect and understanding. They had both faced their demons, and now they stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the night wore on, Sarah noticed the crowd starting to disperse, but the warmth of the connection she had rekindled with Jenna lingered. She felt a sense of peace, as if the weight of the past had finally begun to lift. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah glanced at her artwork displayed around her, each piece a testament to her journey. She realized that this was just the beginning, not only for her, but for every young mother struggling to find her way. Together, they would create a ripple effect of change, one story at a time. As the night of Sarah's exhibition progressed, the atmosphere shifted in the gallery, transforming from one of initial apprehension to an unexpected openness. The dim lighting cast a warm glow over the crowd, and the vibrant colors of Sarah's paintings seemed to pulse with life, inviting conversation and reflection. It was a striking contrast to the tension that had filled the air earlier. Sarah stood near her centerpiece piece, a large canvas titled Resilience, depicting a mother and child intertwined in a burst of colors that symbolized both struggle and joy. As she observed the attendees, she caught snippets of conversations, curious whispers mingling with tentative compliments. The buzz around her work was palpable, and she felt a swell of pride mixed with anxiety. "Have you seen that one?" a woman exclaimed, pointing at a painting that illustrated the harsh realities of teen motherhood. "It's so raw. It feels like she's exposing her soul." Sarah's heart raced at the thought, but she also felt a sense of validation. The art was indeed a reflection of her journey, and she had poured her heart into each stroke of the brush. Just then, a familiar face approached her, a young woman she had seen at the support group meetings. "Sarah, your work is incredible," the woman said, her eyes shining with admiration. "I can't believe how much it resonates with what we've been discussing in the group." "Thank you," Sarah replied, her voice warm. "It means a lot to hear that. I wanted my art to connect with others, to make them feel seen." The woman nodded, her expression serious. "You've done that. It's like you're holding a mirror up to our experiences. I've never felt so understood." As the night unfolded, more and more attendees approached Sarah, sharing their thoughts and feelings about her art. Each interaction was a thread weaving a tapestry of understanding that enveloped her in warmth. She felt a growing sense of community forming around her, and it ignited a flicker of hope in her heart. Meanwhile, Jenna stood at a distance, observing the scene unfold. She felt a mixture of pride and concern. The conversation that had erupted earlier between her and Sarah still lingered in her mind, but as she watched Sarah connect with the audience, she couldn't help but admire her tenacity. Jenna took a deep breath and decided it was time to join her friend. "Sarah," she called out, weaving through the crowd until she reached her. "Can we talk?" "Of course," Sarah replied, her smile faltering slightly as she sensed the weight behind Jenna's words. They stepped aside, into a quieter corner of the gallery where the noise of the crowd faded into a distant hum. "I've been thinking about everything we discussed earlier," Jenna began, her voice steady yet filled with vulnerability. "About how I've held on to my resentment. I see now that I was wrong to feel that way." Sarah looked at her, her heart racing. "Jenna, I appreciate you saying that. It's been hard for me to come back here, to face everything." "I can only imagine," Jenna said, her gaze softening. "But watching you tonight, I realize how much you've accomplished. You've turned your pain into something beautiful." "Thank you," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "That was my hope. To show that even the darkest experiences can lead to light." The two friends stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging in the air. Jenna took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I want to help you. I think we can use this exhibition to create something more, something that can really change our community." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, intrigued. Jenna's eyes sparkled with determination. "We could start workshops for young mothers, using art as a way to express their struggles. We could create a platform for their voices. You've already begun that with your work, but imagine if we could expand it even further." Sarah's heart raced at the idea. "That would be amazing. I've always wanted to do something like that, but I didn't know where to start." "You have a gift, Sarah. And now, with the recognition you're getting, we can make a real impact. We can change lives together," Jenna said, her voice filled with passion. As their conversation deepened, Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. This was the kind of reconciliation she had yearned for, not just with Jenna but with the community that had once cast her aside. "Let's do it," Sarah said, her voice firm. "Let's turn this exhibition into something bigger. We'll start with the support group and then expand from there." "Absolutely," Jenna exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "We can put out feelers to local organizations and see who might want to collaborate. I can reach out to some contacts in the community." Just then, a couple approached them, their expressions curious and open. "Excuse me," the woman said, "we overheard you talking about starting something for young mothers. Is that true?" Sarah nodded, feeling a rush of energy. "Yes. We want to create a space for young mothers to express themselves through art and share their stories." The man stepped forward, his face serious but kind. "That's incredible. My sister went through a similar experience, and I know how difficult it can be. I'd love to help however I can." Jenna beamed at Sarah. "See? We're already getting support." As more people began to gather around, intrigued by the idea, Sarah felt a sense of purpose swell within her. The night was no longer just about her art, it was about building a future for others, a future where they could find solace in creativity and connection. "Thank you all for your support," Sarah said, her voice rising above the murmurs. "This is just the beginning. Together, we can create a community that uplifts and empowers young mothers. We can break the stigma and share our stories." The crowd erupted in murmurs of agreement, and Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude. She had once felt so alone, and now, here she was, surrounded by people who not only understood her struggle but were willing to stand beside her. As the night wore on, Sarah and Jenna exchanged ideas with others who were eager to contribute. The gallery, once a space of vulnerability and fear, had transformed into a hub of hope and collaboration. The conversation flowed effortlessly, each person adding their own experiences and insights, creating a rich tapestry of stories intertwined with dreams of change. Eventually, as the crowd began to thin, Sarah found herself standing back at her centerpiece. She gazed at resilience, feeling a deep connection to it. It was not just a reflection of her journey, it was a symbol of the community they were all beginning to build, a community that embraced imperfection and celebrated strength. "Can you believe this?" Jenna asked, standing beside her. "We have a real chance to make a difference." "I never imagined it would unfold like this," Sarah replied, her voice thick with emotion. "It feels like I'm finally home." As they stood together, looking out at the remnants of the evening, Sarah realized that the ghosts of her past had begun to ease. The journey ahead would not be without challenges, but for the first time, she felt supported and understood. With Jenna by her side and a community ready to embrace change, Sarah knew that she could face whatever came next, with courage, with love, and, above all, with the power of her art. The night of the exhibition had arrived, and the atmosphere buzzed with an electrifying mixture of excitement and tension. Sarah stood in front of her artwork, a breathtaking piece that encapsulated her journey of pain, resilience, and motherhood. It was a large canvas painted in vivid colors, each stroke a testament to the struggles she had faced and the love she had found in her daughter, Lily. As the crowd swelled around her, Sarah felt her heart race. The moment she had both anticipated and dreaded was finally here. "Sarah," a familiar voice called out, cutting through the noise. It was Jenna, her former friend turned rival, now an influential community organizer. "Are you ready for this?" Sarah turned to face her, forcing a smile despite the knot in her stomach. "As ready as I'll ever be. I just hope they see the meaning behind it all." Jenna studied Sarah's painting, her expression a mixture of admiration and something unnameable. "You've really put yourself out there." I didn't know how much of your story you'd share." "Neither did I until I started painting," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It felt necessary, like I had to let it all out." The gallery was filled with local residents, some familiar faces from her past, faces that had judged her harshly, and others who were new to Maplewood. They milled around, sipping wine and discussing the pieces on display. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, but the anxiety of being scrutinized weighed heavily on her. Just as she was lost in thought, the gallery owner stepped up to the microphone, drawing everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. We are honored to showcase the incredible work of our own Sarah Thompson, a remarkable artist whose journey has inspired many." Polite applause erupted from the crowd. Sarah could feel the warmth of their support but also the chill of past judgments lingering in the air. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus on the moment. "Tonight," the owner continued, "we will not only celebrate Sarah's art but also the strength it represents. Her work speaks volumes about motherhood, resilience, and the fight against societal expectations." As the applause faded, Sarah felt a surge of courage. This was her moment to share her truth. She stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "Thank you all for being here. Each piece in this gallery holds a piece of my heart. It tells the story of a young woman who faced rejection, who learned to find beauty in pain, and who discovered strength she never knew she possessed." She paused, glancing around the room, finding the faces of those who had once looked down on her. "I was a teenager who was expelled from my home for becoming pregnant. I turned to art to express my grief and confusion. This painting," she motioned to the large canvas behind her, "is not just a reflection of my past, but a beacon of hope for others who may feel lost. The audience remained silent, captivated by her vulnerability. But then, from the back of the room, a voice cut through the air, sharp and accusatory. "And how do we know you're not just glorifying your mistakes?" Gasps rippled through the crowd as they turned to see Vanessa, a woman Sarah had known from school, her face twisted with disdain. "You think you're some kind of hero? You were just a kid who made a poor choice." Heat rushed to Sarah's cheeks, but she refused to back down. "Vanessa, my story is not about glorifying mistakes, it's about survival. It's about turning pain into purpose. You have no idea what I went through, or what countless young mothers go through every day. This isn't just my story, it's theirs too. Is it? Or are you just trying to play the victim?" Vanessa shot back, her voice laced with scorn. "You have no idea what real struggle is." "Enough," Jenna interjected, stepping forward with an authoritative air. "This is not the place for this kind of negativity. We're here to celebrate, not to tear each other down." "But look at her." Vanessa gestured wildly towards Sarah. "She's just parading her failures around like they're achievements." The tension in the room thickened as whispers spread among the crowd. Sarah clenched her fists, her heart racing as she fought to keep her composure. She could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on her, but she knew she had to stand her ground. "Vanessa, this isn't just about me. It's about every young girl who feels ashamed for becoming a mother too soon, who feels like they've failed their families, or society. I want them to see that they can rise above it, just as I did," Sarah said, her voice steady. The gallery owner shifted uncomfortably, glancing between the two women. Sarah's breath hitched, and she stole a glance at Jenna, who was watching with a mix of concern and support. "Do you really think it's fair to judge someone for the choices they made when they were just kids?" Jenna challenged, her voice firm. "Sarah is using her art to create a dialogue. Isn't that what we should be doing?" Vanessa hesitated, her resolve faltering for a brief moment. "But what about the responsibility? Shouldn't we be holding people accountable for their actions?" "Of course," Sarah replied, her voice rising above the murmurs. "But accountability doesn't mean tearing each other apart. It means understanding, supporting, and helping one another grow. I'm here tonight not only for myself but for every girl who feels alone in her struggles." The crowd began to shift, murmurs of agreement rising around the room. Sarah caught sight of a few familiar faces nodding, their expressions softening. It was a small but powerful shift, one that ignited a flicker of hope within her. "Art has the power to heal," Jenna added, her tone softer now. "It connects us, reminds us that we are all human, and that we all have our battles. We should be lifting each other up, not pushing each other down." Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she hoped would be the climax of the evening. "I invite everyone here to reflect on their own stories. We all have struggles, we all have pain. Let's talk about it, let's share, and let's grow together. That's why I painted this. To start a conversation." The gallery owner stepped forward again, sensing the shift in energy. "Let's take a moment to appreciate the courage it takes to share such personal experiences. Sarah, thank you for your bravery tonight." Applause broke out, a wave of support washing over Sarah. It was a moment of recognition she had longed for, but she knew she had to address Vanessa one last time. "Vanessa, I don't want you to think I'm against you or what you believe. I just want to show that there is another side. We can choose empathy over judgment," Sarah said, her gaze unwavering. Vanessa's expression softened slightly, but she remained defensive. I don't want to see anyone glorify something that should be hidden away." "Then let's not hide," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "Let's bring these stories to light and help each other heal. Isn't that what we all want?" The murmurs of agreement grew louder, and Sarah could feel the tide turning in her favor. Vanessa stood there, momentarily speechless, as the atmosphere shifted once more. The crowd began to applaud, and with that, Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The night was far from over, but in that moment, she had not only defended her art but had also begun to foster a newfound understanding within her community. As she looked around at the faces in the crowd, she felt a sense of hope blossoming in her chest. They were beginning to see her, and perhaps, they would finally understand the power of resilience and the importance of empathy. As lights dimmed in the gallery, a palpable silence enveloped the room. Sarah stood at the center, her heart pounding in her chest. The vibrant colors of her paintings seemed to dance under the subdued lighting, each stroke of the brush telling a story of pain, resilience, and hope. The atmosphere was charged with emotion, and she could feel the weight of countless eyes upon her. Suddenly, a familiar voice pierced through the tension. It was Amber, her old rival, standing at the back of the room, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "You think this makes you a hero, Sarah?" Amber's voice dripped with scorn, and a few heads turned in her direction. "You think everyone will forget what you really are?" Sarah's heart sank as she turned to face her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice steady despite the rising tide of anxiety. Amber stepped forward, her face twisted in disdain. "You think they'll applaud you for being a single mother? For abandoning your family? You're just a cautionary tale for these girls." She gestured to the group of young mothers who had gathered to support Sarah, their eyes wide with shock. The room buzzed with murmurs. Sarah could feel her cheeks flush, but she forced herself to stand tall. "I'm not ashamed of my past, Amber. I've turned my pain into art, and I'm here to inspire others, not to be judged by you or anyone else. Is that what you think?" Amber shot back, her voice rising. "You're just parading your mistakes in front of everyone, and you think that's bravery? It's pathetic." A heavy silence descended as the audience absorbed the confrontation. Sarah's throat tightened, but she took a deep breath and stepped forward. "You're right, Amber. I made mistakes. But I've learned from them, and I'm using my experiences to help others." "What have you done?" Amber faltered for a moment, her bravado slipping. "I've done what I had to do," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "I've built a life for myself without the drama." "Without acknowledging your own struggles?" Sarah pressed. "I know you had your own challenges. You were pregnant too, weren't you? Yet you hid it from everyone. Why?" "Because you were ashamed." The words hung in the air, bold and challenging. Amber's expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her hardened facade. "That's none of your business," she snapped, but the fire in her voice lacked conviction. "It is my business," Sarah said, her voice steady but softening. "It's all of our business. We're here to support one another, not tear each other down. Can't you see that?" Amber's defenses crumbled slightly, and she looked around, realizing the audience was watching her with anticipation. "I didn't want to be like you," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was scared. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away." Sarah took a step closer, her heart aching for the pain behind Amber's bravado. "It doesn't go away, Amber. It festers. You can't hide from your truth. You have to face it. And if you're willing to do that, we can help each other." The tension in the room shifted, and whispers of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Sarah saw the realization dawning on some faces. They were witnessing a moment of raw honesty, a shared vulnerability that transcended their past conflicts. "Maybe I was a coward," Amber admitted, her voice trembling. "I judged you because I was afraid of what I could have been. I didn't want to be like you, but deep down, I was jealous of your courage." "Courage comes from facing our fears, not avoiding them," Sarah replied gently. Let's find strength in our struggles instead of using them as weapons against each other. Amber looked down, her defenses finally crumbling. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry for everything. I've been holding on to this bitterness for too long. The audience was silent, each person absorbing the weight of Amber's confession. Sarah felt a surge of empathy for her former rival. They were both products of their circumstances, caught in a web of judgment and fear. I forgive you, Sarah said softly, her heart swelling with compassion. We all have our demons. It's time we let go of the past and move forward together. Amber's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Thank you, she whispered, and the sincerity in her voice resonated through the gallery. As the two women stood in the spotlight, a wave of applause erupted from the audience, echoing through the space. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the crowd wasn't just responding to her art anymore, they were embracing the message of redemption and understanding. Let's create a new narrative, Sarah proposed, her voice strong and clear. One where we support each other instead of tearing each other down. Together, we can help young mothers find their voices and their strength. The crowd erupted in cheers, and for the first time, Sarah felt the weight of her past lift. She turned to Amber, who nodded, a newfound determination in her eyes. I want to help, Amber said, her voice steady. I want to be part of this change. In that moment, the animosity that had defined their relationship transformed into a partnership rooted in understanding. The two women clasped hands, sealing their commitment to each other and to the community they both wanted to uplift. As the night continued, Sarah moved through the crowd, engaging with those who approached her. Stories of struggle and resilience flowed freely, and she felt a deep sense of connection with the women who had gathered. Each conversation was a reminder of the strength found in vulnerability, a testament to the transformative power of empathy. Later, as the evening drew to a close, Sarah found herself standing at the edge of the gallery, watching as people began to disperse. The atmosphere was charged with hope, and she felt a sense of fulfillment she had longed for. Lily, her daughter, wandered over, her eyes wide with admiration. Mom, that was amazing, she exclaimed, her voice filled with wonder. You were so brave. Sarah knelt down, pulling Lily into a warm embrace. Thank you, sweetheart. But remember, bravery is not just about being strong. It's also about being honest and kind. Can we do more things like this? Lily asked, her eyes shining. Can we help more people? Absolutely, Sarah replied, her heart swelling with pride. This is just the beginning. As they stood there, surrounded by the remnants of the night's success, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had faced her past, transformed her pain into art, and found strength in vulnerability. She had helped bridge the gap between her past and her future, not just for herself, but for the community she loved. And as she glanced at Amber, who was engaging with others in the crowd, Sarah knew that together they could create a powerful narrative of acceptance and support, inspiring others to embrace their stories and to find their voices. In that moment, Sarah understood that healing was not a solitary journey, it was a collective one, woven together by the threads of shared experiences and the strength found in community.